Hello everyone, my name is Martin and I would like to welcome you all to our webinar today from Rojo Integrations on the topic of SAP Integration Modernization. In today's session, we're going to discuss recommendations and best practices from SAP related to integration modernization with a key focus point on SAP prepackaged integration content and how does it compare and how is it different than developing integrations from scratch. In addition, we all know that nowadays there are a lot of SAP transformations going on, like the move from ECC to S4 or migrating from older on-prem applications like POPI to SAP Integration Suite, or just integrating other third-party apps with SAP ERP. And we're also going to share some of our thoughts and recommendations how those big SAP transformations are related to the integration aspect and what are the considerations that you need to pay attention to. Moving on to the agenda that we have for today's session, we're going to start with a very short intro of Rojo as a company and introduce the main topic of today. Afterwards, we're going to discuss in a bit more detail what is the role of integration in the modern enterprise and essentially try to answer the question why integration matters. Then we're going to proceed with a deep dive into SAP prepackaged integration content. And then around the end of the session, we're going to share with you one success story of a US electric car manufacturer who has used SAP integration content from Rojo for one of their integration projects. Then at the end, we're going to wrap up today's webinar with a Q&A session. So if you have any questions or comments throughout today's webinar, feel free to use either the Q&A section or the chat to post them, and we're going to address those at the end of today's session. Alongside me today, we also have my colleague Swati. She is the head of our innovation department, responsible for our software solutions that we build, and she has very extensive experience in the area of enterprise integration.
Good day, everybody.
Okay, continuing with the short intro of Rojo as a company, because I'm not sure if all of you know Rojo and what we stand for. That's why I would like to give a very short intro and set the stage of what is our position within the whole SAP ecosystem, if I can call it so. So as the name suggests, we are a company that is primarily focused on enterprise integration, and our company has evolved from the need to have a partner that would focus exclusively and 100% on providing SAP integration services and software, rather than treating integration as a byproduct of other projects. We've been on the market since 2011, and besides the Netherlands, we also have offices in Spain and in India. However, we also help customers all around the globe, so we operate globally. I think it's also important to highlight some of our strategic partnerships that we have. Of course, the focus for today will be on SAP, but besides SAP, we also have very good collaboration with other companies like Solas in the event-driven domain, with Splunk for observability solutions, and with some other technology providers like Coupa, for example. What we do as a company is, you could describe it as a one-stop shop for integration. What we mean by this is that we cover the full integration lifecycle, from strategy and design to building and implementation, and then to operation and optimization. And we do so by operating in three main verticals. This is software, consultancy, and managed services. And today we're going to put more attention and highlight our software services and how do they relate in terms of the SAP integration domain and SAP BTP and integration suite in particular. So you can imagine that those three main business lines operate together, and they allow us to provide this full integration life cycles, products and services that we have with our portfolio. The important thing to highlight about us in terms of SAP integration is that we are an exclusive OEM partner of SAP. And over the next two slides, I will start to position a bit more what we do in this area. Another example of the experience and our activities in the SAP integration domain is here on the slide. You can see the official SAP books, the official SAP guides, starting from SAP PO to the latest guides on SAP Integration Suite. And actually, my colleague Swati, who will be presenting alongside me today, is also one of the authors of these books. So as I mentioned, our team really does bring a lot of expertise when it comes to integration. Moving on, yeah, we already explained a bit about what we do in terms of integration and what is the topic of today, but what we'd like to highlight here is our collaboration overall with SAP. You can see a lot of logos here on the slide. Those are the adapters that we have already delivered as part of our collaboration and partnership with SAP, alongside with our future roadmap over the years ahead. Last year, we expanded our collaboration with SAP, and we have a strong commitment to continue delivering SAP adapters in the future and support third-party connectivity for SAP BTP. But a bit more details on this later on. Moving on to the core topic of today, which is integration and the integration modernization recommendations from SAP. So I think so far we managed to understand the Rojo's role in the integration space, which sets the stage for the bigger picture. Why does integration matter now more than ever? And I think we could all agree that currently businesses are handling more applications, more data, and an overall increasing demand for real-time connectivity. All those aspects mean that we are essentially living in a world of more, as we'd like to call it here on the slide. In a world where, on average, organizations are handling over 1,000 applications per enterprise, and each of these applications is generating and consuming important business data. While from this side, the data that is being generated and consumed is also growing by on average 25% every year. So what this means is that all this makes the integration more difficult. And while integration is becoming more challenging than ever by itself, also the expectations of both the business and the consumers have evolved over time. Now there is a high expectation for real-time connectivity. Companies are also shifting to those distributed landscape, to those multi-cloud environments. So this means that data and processes are now spread across multiple platforms. And while all those things are happening, integration is still often treated as an afterthought, which, to put it simply, leads to a lot of inefficiencies and overall unnecessary costs. And at Rojo, we believe that organizations that want to be successful in today's world, they need to think about and embrace solutions that are fast, that are scalable, and ultimately that have been designed for the future. So far, we talked about integration in the modern world, but let's take a short, a quick look into how those practices evolved over the years. On this slide, we like to call this comparison old practices against best practices. And if we take a look on the left-hand side of the slide, we can see how integrations were done traditionally, right? They relied on batch delivery, on file-based transfers, and direct point-to-point connections. And while these approaches may be familiar, they are essentially difficult to maintain as your systems scale. Overall, they create inconsistencies across the landscape because they represent a very tightly coupled set of dependencies, which results in additional cost and risks when any changes are introduced to to this setup. Modern integration, however, follows a different approach, the one that we can see on the right-hand side of the slide. Instead of batch processing, we now move to real-time data transfer, and instead of handling flat file exchanges, we leverage APIs. And instead of building these tightly coupled integrations point to point, we use decoupling practices and middleware to simplify and scale this across the enterprise. And overall, once again, we think that companies that embrace these type of best practices are better positioned to succeed in today's interconnected world. And if we now know what is the role of integration in the modern enterprise, how this evolved over the over the years, we would now like to put a little bit of more focus on what are those specific SAP modernization recommendations. And as a company that works closely and collaborates closely with SAP, we follow their best practices and would like to share a couple of two main concepts with the audience here today. So we would like to introduce to you maybe things that you're already familiar with, but we would like to deep dive in a bit in this slide. Those two topics are SAP Clean Core approach and prepackaged integration content. So starting up with what is Clean Core. Clean Core is more of an approach. It is about achieving a modern and flexible S/4HANA setup. What is meant by clean core is integrating and extending your SAP ERP in such a way that you ensure optimal master data quality and have good governance, with the idea of standardizing your ERP processes and data. All this results, according to SAP, in achieving a reduced total cost of ownership. And this approach helps you accelerate decision making with better data quality and supports continuous innovation as the core is kept clean and you can regularly perform upgrades. Another possible modernization item recommended by SAP is custom interfaces. So what is meant by custom interfaces? This is an integration solution that is developed from scratch to address your specific and unique business requirements. However, as SAP is focusing on covering more of those use cases, the recommendation that is given is that you first check whether there is already existing integration content before you start developing from scratch. With the pre-packaged integration content available from SAP and the wider partner ecosystem, you can get started quickly with minimal integration developer effort. So think about, for example, when you are migrating from SAP PO to SAP Cloud Integration. If you're new to SAP Cloud Integration or overall in integration development, pre-delivered packages provide a starting point and give guidance on how to structure integration flows and configure components. Just making a short break here because I see some messages coming in that the slide is not visible. Let me then reshare the presentation in order to see if this resolves the issue. Just bear with me for a second. Let me reshare the deck. Please confirm in the chat if you are able to see the slides, or also the other way around. If the issue persists, also please let us know. However, I will proceed from where we were. Oh, I see that the other people can see the slide, so the issue might be on the particular side of some of the attendees. So let me proceed with with the modernization item of custom built interfaces. So as I was saying, SAP is currently focusing on covering more of those use cases. So the recommendation is to first check whether there is some prepackaged integration content already available for your projects, which can greatly help you accelerate and minimize the integration development effort overall. The added value of those integration packages is that they provide to you a great starting point and give you guidance on yeah, how to execute those integrations. They consist of pre-configured integration flows, mappings, and settings that overall save you time and effort. I think this is something that you also hear in the coming slides, but overall this is the biggest added value of using pre-delivered packages. Furthermore, they are developed according to SAP best practices, so they are yeah, they can help you maintain consistency across different integration projects within your organization, and are also made to be scalable, so they can cater for the growth of your landscape. And if you are interested to read in more detail about all those concrete recommendations from SAP on any of those aspects, here we have highlighted two, but there are other as well. You can yeah, either search for this SAP documentation or reach out to us separately, and we will be happy to provide you with some more information. To wrap up the initial part of the presentation, we also wanted to share with the group here some feedback, which is coming directly from the market. We have yeah, provided a screenshot of a poll which was ran by SAP themselves, where the biggest percentage of the answers, 35% of all participants, answered that they identify out-of-the-box integrations is the top reason of why SAP Cloud Integration is their platform of choice. And I feel this aligns very well with the core topic of today, using pre-delivered packages, because it is another example of the power of SAP BTP overall, and in particular using those pre-built components like adapters and integration content. And here I will pass over to my colleague Swati, who will deep dive into the prepackaged integration content. So over to you, Swati.
Thanks, Martin, for taking us so far. And as most of us who have worked in SAP integration for quite some time, we see the move happening, right, from building everything from scratch towards finding out what's already available, built according to best practices, and taking it further. And prepackaged integration content is the core component that plays a big role in this shift. Going forward to the further slide, please. Yes. If you look at how pre-packaged content is centrally built, it actually encompasses a few areas, right? So it has to have the components which would help you do the technical connectivity to the applications that you want to connect to. And in quite a lot of these areas, if you're doing third-party connectivity, it also requires adapter in cloud integration, which is built for connecting to such a system. So if I take an example for Coupa, say, in that case, if you look at the pre-packaged content that comes for Coupa, you would see that the connectivity towards Coupa is provided by the standard adapter that comes as part of integration suite, which is built for specifically running Coupa-related interfaces. And such an adapter runs on top of integration suite, and you as a developer would not have to think about doing any technical investigation before trying to use this adapter. So in the old times when I would have to connect to a third-party application, and the only option I would have is the plain HTTP or SOAP adapter, I would have to read through all the API documentations, figure out a lot of information about the authentication, authorization, that setup. and figure out also how the structure of the objects would look like, how would the XSDs being generated in this case. So all of that effort which was required to actually start the connectivity to an application is encompassed by the cloud integration adapter itself. And with those ones, all you have to do is, look inside the adapter and you see exactly which type of objects and what connectivity, etc., is required. And looking at the integration flow itself, you could easily go click on configure and provide the relevant input for it to work. Okay, along with that, then comes the business logic. So the second and the most important part of solving a business problem by making a prepackaged integration content is making or putting that business logic in action, right? So now the technical connectivity part is taken care by the adapters. The business logic is taken care by the predefined integration flows. So all the mappings which are required, for example, to translate structures of data from one format to another would come out of the box in this integration content. Along with that, you would also have any special requirements for error handling, how to do it in standard phases, right? So the error handling, monitoring requirements, possibility of enhanced logging, all of that also comes based on the best practices and design guidelines of SAP by default in the integration content itself. So if your business logic comes close to the problem solved in the integration content or provided by the integration flow, all you have to do is take that integration flow and look how far it is from your exact business requirement. In case it fits one-on-one, which can happen in some cases, but most of the time you might have some small customizations added. In those cases, you take it, extend it further. If it fits one-on-one, go ahead and use it, configure it, and just simply start using it, right? So this covers the two major components which are required for any integration content to provide you end-to-end connectivity. Martin? Yeah. And how does it differ? So if you look at how we used to do this process before, um, when we ran full-term projects, we would start with the whole process of identifying the requirements. We would analyze and select corresponding APIs and entities. We would design, have mapping workshops, where we would sit together with the people of source system, people of target system, put these big Excels in place and put the structures on left and right and decide the mapping logic. We would start by picking the adapters, which we discussed is one of the core components of making an integration. We would configure these endpoints required for those adapters. Once that is done, you would test and debug this whole scenario. Would go towards the acceptance test phase, in which the end users would help you test this and see how it works. Then it would be deployed towards productive environment, and the support and maintenance activity kicks in. So the whole process of this integration project can span anywhere from 6 to 9 months, depending on the complexity of the project, right? Or more, or if it's simple projects, a little bit less. But the number of steps that you would have to go through in case of this is going to be quite cumbersome. And along with that, you start with a blank slate. So if you have a lot of time pressure, you might make mistakes or leave out some things that you think are not yet critical to have that go live date met, right? We've all been there. So that's how classic integration project would work. But when we do the same thing using an integration content, then it would look something like this, where before building anything, you would look at api.sap.com. You would choose and select, you would look for your own scenario and choose and select what fits your needs. You would adapt the pre-built mapping and configurations. So here is where you talk to your business colleagues and say, look, this is what we have out of the box. What else do we need in this case? And any additional information that they need is something that you would have to adopt. But you don't have a blank slate. Your whole iFlow is created. All the translations, everything is there. All you have to do is extensions. You would configure the endpoints in this case, so point it to your own Coupa environment, for example, or if you're using Salesforce, then Salesforce, or put the credentials of S/4HANA, depending on your scenario. You would run the acceptance test on it, deploy it to production, and then the support and maintenance kicks in for this project, right? So if you look at it from this perspective, a lot of time which is spent in building things from scratch is taken away from you. You don't have to worry about special considerations for error handling. How are you going to do logging, for example, or in certain situations, if you want to connect to monitoring applications or so, all of that is kind of taken care of as part of the provided integration content. So you can imagine there are multiple benefits to using an integration content over starting from scratch. And look, I know there would be scenarios where you cannot find an integration content. That can also be, it can happen. But looking at the catalog that we have now at the side of SAP, it's growing and growing, and a lot of basic scenarios that you would have between applications are being covered as well. Now, if I just look at the business benefits of this whole way of working with integration content, the time to value is way faster. At any of our typical customers, we have seen it is more than 60% because you cut out a lot of pre-work which is required to build such an integration, which of course reflects in lower costs. The solution is scalable because what you have in front of you has already gone through rigorous design guideline testing at the side of SAP, at the side of us, because we are also involved in that process heavily. So the solution, you are sure that it would scale well with bigger data loads as well. So you don't have to worry about that. The risk is reduced because of these factors. And you have improved business agility because in these cases, all you have to do is adapt here and there. So for you to move fast, this is quite beneficial. Those are the business benefits, but of course, the IT side of it, it also has huge benefits. The integrations are simplified. You have less maintenance effort because of the fact that they are already built pretty well. Improved monitoring and analytics through several extension of monitoring hooks and all, standardization and extensibility. So the integration flows are built in a standard manner, following standard best practices, and can be extended for your need. And one of the biggest time taker for any two system integration is defining the mappings, starting from scratch there. Here, that is already done. So you don't have to worry about that part. All you have to worry about adding additional fields, for example, or extensions. So a majority of it is already thought through and available for you to use. Okay. Martin? Yeah. So some of the accelerators and integration packages that we have currently available are the ones related to Salesforce, Workday. You would see on the screen details about it. And they work with the systems like S/4HANA, for Salesforce explicitly with S/4HANA, S/4HANA Cloud, and ECC. Then for Workday, we have the integration with S/4HANA and S/4HANA Cloud with Workday. For Coupa, the same as for HANA, as for HANA Cloud, with the possibility to have an extension for ECC as well. In case of ServiceNow as well, we have an additional one apart from S/4HANA with SAP SuccessFactors. And for Signavio, we have with Salesforce, Dynamics CRM, and Workday is coming shortly as well. If you look at what is coming, we have the integration packages of SAP Sustainability launching soon. Along with that, we also have in planning Zycus and yeah, for NetSuite, Jira, Snowflake, and a plan, etc. So these are some of the things that you can already find on API Business Hub, and some of the ones which are coming soon. If you have something in your mind that you would think, okay, maybe it would be interesting for us to have something like this in a different for a different tool, then we are also open to hearing from you and yeah, taking that suggestion further based on how many requests we get for it. Yes, Martin.
Thank you, Swati. Thank you very much for walking us in detail into what prepackaged content is, what are the benefits, the different IT benefits, the business benefits as well. I think what makes sense is here at this part of the webinar to actually illustrate how those components come together in a real world example, a customer story of a US electric car manufacturer. Um, the the summary of the project is essentially using the available Coupa adapter, which is publicly available in api.sap.com, alongside the Coupa integration content, which is available for SAP S/4HANA directly from Rojo, and fitting those two together in order to enable end-to-end connectivity and integrating Coupa with the SAP S/4HANA system. So this is the summary of what the project entailed. And of course, this type of project, here we're focusing on a project where Coupa was implemented for the first time. But this is not, how to say, this is not the exclusive use case which is out there, right? You can think about, for example, organizations that have an existing, let's say, ECC integration with another system. There it would also make sense when they are migrating from ECC to S/4HANA, for example, to also think about using some software solutions which are already part of their SAP BTP platform, like an adapter, and think about is there a possibility to actually reduce the integration effort with using integration content. Focusing in a bit more detail about this particular use case, there were a couple of challenges which were identified at the customer side. This was a knowledge gap, because in order to enable an end-to-end connectivity between Coupa and S/4HANA, you need a very specific set of knowledge. You need some functional knowledge on the application side of things. You also need knowledge in SAP integration, of course, which is the expertise that Rojo holds. And you would need to know actually very well what are the requirements of such a project. And all this would lead to a very high effort that you need to spend and a very long delivery timeline. Of course, once this solution is ready, you also need to consider the aspects of how it is going to be maintained, how it is going to be supported, and overall, what is the quality of such a solution. Because even if you develop something custom, something from scratch for your specific business requirements, you also don't know how would this perform over time in a production environment. Therefore, this company chose to go with the pre-built Coupa adapter and the pre-built integration content. And actually, they achieved very good results in terms of having a very short delivery timeline. It took only 4 weeks until all the scenarios which were replicated between Coupa and S/4HANA were implemented. Overall, 80% of all the software came out of the box. Here we say 80% because you can consider the integration content also to be customizable according to your specific needs. Because let's say, in this example, Coupa and S/4HANA systems, they vary from customer to customer. Therefore, you can also customize the integration content to make it fit your particular system setup. And this is exactly what was done here. And at the end, they managed to streamline their procurement processes and have real-time data replication between Coupa and S4HANA. And when we think about integration content, in this particular example, we mean those specific business processes. Think about replicating suppliers, think about replicating purchase order. This type of information is in real time replicated between the two systems, Coupa and S4HANA. So overall, the challenges that this company had in the beginning were solved by using the products which are available as in terms of an adapter and integration content. And actually, they managed to achieve this implementation within only 4 weeks. So we wanted to use this as a good example of what is possible out there if you take into consideration what is already available as pre-built solution instead of trying to develop everything from scratch. And with this customer success story, we are going into the concluding part of our presentation. One thing that we wanted to share with the group here is that because you attended this webinar, we would like to give you the possibility of having a session with one of our colleagues. This could be a tailored session according to your specific setup. You can ask any questions that you have related to SAP integration or your integration landscape in general and get some personalized advice, and also end-to-end demo in case you're interested in any specific integration scenario which can be used with which can fit any of the integration content that we offer. So if you're interested in having such a session with one of our colleagues, you can either contact us at hello@Rojo Consultancy or simply scan the QR code which you are going to see also in the following slides when we have the Q&A session in order to contact us. So with this, we would like to move to the Q&A section of the webinar. I saw a couple of questions which were coming in the chat. Let me start with addressing those. I saw also some answers which were given in the chat, so this is good in terms of knowledge sharing. But the first question I see is, are the adapters only for SAP, non-SAP, or also for non-SAP, non-SAP? So I will let Swati address this question.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Martin. Yes, so each adapter caters connectivity to an application. So if your business process requires connectivity, for example, between Coupa and Salesforce, then that is possible using the Coupa adapter and Salesforce adapter in the integration flow. So we are kind of not limited to SAP only integration or SAP to non-SAP integrations. It's totally up to you. You can use it to solve any business problem. Keep in mind, a lot of the integration content that you would find on the API Business Hub would also cater to non-SAP. That is also a possibility. So just look in the API Business Hub. A lot of integration content that we talked about, for example, the one of Salesforce, partly the Coupa one, all of those are also free to use completely. And all you have to do is go in the Discover tab of your integration suite cloud integration account and just look for those, or discover through the API Business Hub.
Great, thank you, Swati, for clarifying on this question. And I see in the Q&A section, we also have another question, which is any prepackaged integration available for integrating SAP HCMS with payroll vendors?
Yeah, that is something that we would have to, again, look in the Discover or in the API Business Hub to see. I think there must be some in that area, but I cannot tell you on top of my mind.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you, Swati. Yeah, I think this is related to the overall topic, right? First, it's good for any requirement that you have to go into api.sap.com, use the search functionality in order to identify, hey, is there anything already available? This is the whole recommendation from SAP and also from Rojo. So this would be our advice, but you can also reach out to us separately, and we can discuss this also in more detail. Let me take a quick look if there are any other questions coming in. Let me see. I think this was what was coming in through those channels. Yeah, let me also give answer to one question. Okay, I see. Do you have pre-built content from Snowflake? I see as a question.
Yeah, so we do have the Snowflake adapter already available, and the team is currently working on launching the Snowflake integration content as well. If you have specific scenarios in mind, then reach out to us and we can discuss what we are going to be providing and if what you have in mind. So we can see if we could add that as well.
Yeah, thank you, Swati, for addressing this question about Snowflake. Also, if you would like to take a look at yeah, what we already have available in terms of integration content, you could also visit our website or contact us directly. We are reaching now the end of the session. We would like to use this as an opportunity to thank everyone who attended today's webinar, and yeah, wish you best of luck in your SAP integration projects. Rojo is there to support you. If you have any questions or any specific requirements, feel free to contact us. And yeah, this is it from our side.